Hey everyone, I'm Norn Queen Alexis and welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking Slaanesh demons. This is an army list that I've been playing around with quite a bit and I absolutely love it. It's a very quick list with some very hard-hitting units, and honestly I give the Demon Codex a chance and I honestly love it. I love it. I think it's great. It's good. So this list comes to an awkward amount of points at 1,987, and there's not really anything I can do for those points. And you'll see why in just a second. So this list is an Arcs of Omen detachment using my fast attack as the choice that I'm making, and there is a cat right there. Look at that cat. That is Kovu. He's got eye boogers right now. Ignore his eye boogers. And let's get back to it. So this list has a lot of HQs, a lot of characters, and is very, very easy to, if your opponent starts winning, they're going to snowball you. You're just going to lose. Especially if 3 of these demons are dead. It's going to be hard to recover. So let's get into this army list, shall we? So the army starts off pretty awkwardly with 4 HQs with Arcs of Omen. That's the word that I'm trying to use. Those are the big words. They're very confusing. With Arcs of Omen, you're allowed to take 4 HQ choices, and I definitely took all 4 HQ choices. My first being a Bellicor, just however you want to say his name. Mine is nice and pink, and I absolutely love him. Look at how fancy he looks. He looks absolutely terrific. And Bellicor is 100% an absolute nightmare for your opponent. Chances are Bellicor will live through most of the game if used correctly. Alexis, use him correctly. Bellicor has an amazing ability of -1 to hit and -1 to wound. And his psychic powers are kind of intense. Mostly I wind up using him for psychic interrogation, but his psychic powers are no joke. The 2 that I tend to choose is Betraying Shadows and Penumbral Curse. I don't know actually how to pronounce that, but that's the ones that I choose. The first one is a Witchfire. If manifested, select 1 enemy unit within 18 inches invisible to the Psyker. Select up to 6 models in that unit. Add together non-modified attack characteristics of those models. Roll a number of dice equal to that, and it just deals a lot of mortal wounds. It's really good for just mortal wound spamming. But again, I typically use Bellicor for psychic interrogation. So that's where he sits at. He 100% just jumps onto center objectives and then just kills everything in his path. Bellicor is really good at keeping alive and keeping things dead. You want him in problematic units. You want to keep him in the army list so you can keep regenerating him with the Warp Storm points. You want to keep slamming him into things every single turn. Even if he's in the center, you want to make sure you heroically intervene with him. You want to keep this boy in combat. That is where he is happy, and that's where he wants to be. I tend to take center field with him. Standing on the right side of Bellicor, we have a Keeper of Secrets, and this one I run as Shalaxi Hellbane. Shalaxi Hellbane is another demon that has -1 to hit and wound, and I gave it the Shining Aegis. Now, one thing you'll note about all of my demons here, all of them have a 4-up invulnerable save, except these. Ignore these and those. Okay, we'll get to what the hell this thing is in just a second, and people are going to be confused and be like, is that purple Tiamat? And I'm going to be like, shut up, I painted that before I played Dungeons & Dragons. Anyway, Shalaxi Hellbane here, she does have -1 to hit and wound. She also has the Soul Piercer, so she can regain wounds. So she's just really good at this. I tend to give all the big demons Delightful Agonies because I tend to just cast Smite. And each one of them just takes a unique psychic power from Slaanesh, so I'm not really going to get too into it, as most of that is kind of just your choice. Just make sure every single one of them has Delightful Agonies if they can take it. Sometimes I switch them out to have Bellacore psychic powers because they're pretty decent. Shalaxi Hellbane is just really good with that -1 to hit and wounds. Then we got -1 to hit and wounds. Then we have another Keeper of Secrets. Let's go with this one. This one is my Warlord, and the Warlord trait is Warp Mists. This allows them to keep unspent Warp Storm points, up to 2 of them every turn. This will allow you to get those big rolls of 5 so that you can heal all of your demons every single turn. Or if you're Slaanesh, go first, but typically you're going to be slamming into things and just going back and forth between combats anyway, so the Slaanesh going first thing is not that big a deal anymore. Let's see, what else do you have? She has a exalted trait, and her exalted trait is each time a ranged attack is made against this model. Nope, that's just her normal thing. Oh no, she has -1 to hit and -1 to wounds as well. So she has, I'm not going to try to pronounce it. It's the one that just says each time a ranged attack is made against this model, subtract 1 from the attacker's wound rolls. And then she has her mesmerizing form, which minuses 1 from hit rolls. Now the hit rolls work in close combat, the wound rolls do not, and that's something that I gotta remember whenever I get these girls into combat. So then we have another Keeper of Secrets, and this is just the last one. And the last one, oh whoops, is this one also? Nope, I clicked on the wrong one. I keep clicking on the wrong one on Battlescribe because I'm a genius. So this one has Insatiable Onslaught, and there's a cat right there. Look at him licking the table like an idiot. His one brain cell a-chugging. Anyway, she has Insatiable Onslaught, so she can get in really quickly. Then she has the Soul Eater Relic, so she can regain wounds very quickly. And typically what I do is I throw Feel No Pain up on a different Keeper of Secrets, and I charge this one and make sure my opponent knows that this thing moves faster and charges faster. That way if my opponent goes first, they put all of their shots into here and not the more valuable one and not the harder to kill ones, because they'll focus everything onto this one and it'll die turn 1 and I don't really care. It's a distraction keeper, keeper of distractions. Then we have 3 fast attack choices, and these are just going to be my Seekers of Slaanesh. These are the what are these called? They have that Spanish designer's name. I cannot remember it. But they're the older keepers, the older Seekers of Slaanesh. I'm going to redo their bases because I don't like their bases. But I tend to take 3 squads of these, as you can see. Look at that. 3 squads of these. 2 squads of 5 and 1 squad of 6, just because of how points line up. These, their sole purpose, never engage in combat unless I absolutely have to, or I think a unit is weak enough that their tongue attacks can pick 1 or 2 things off. But their main objective is turn 1, run all the way onto an objective, and sit there while the demons run up the table and deal with everything and try to suppress my opponent and keep them in their deployment zone as long as I can, where these girls run around and just grab objectives. That is their sole purpose, and that is all that I do with them. Make sure they grab objectives. Then we have 2 Soul Grinders with the Mark of Slaanesh. These things, I think, are very underrated. They're toughness 8, which honestly is pretty insane. They have a 5-up save against range and a 4-up save in close combat, so I try to keep them in close combat. They have a 12-inch move with Mark of Slaanesh. They have 2 guns and an Iron Claw, and they have a Warp Claw for a Malefic 4 attacks. By the way, the number of attacks that these things have is insane. I think the minimum number of attacks from anything is over 6. So you have a shit ton of attacks and a shit ton of damage, because the minimum damage of the big keepers is 3 with an AP of 3. So they're really good marine killers. So these have Warp Claws, Iron Claws, and they move 12 inches. They have 2 guns with their Flint Bombardment, their Reaper Autocannon, or their Harvester Cannon, my apologies. They have a ballistic skill of 3+ and a weapon skill of 3+. It does degrade, but overall it's kind of insane. They have 5 attacks, so in total they have a total of 9 attacks apiece for a strength 8 unit, or a strength 16 depending on what weapon they're using. And these things are just insane. They're really good for taking midfield objectives, and they're so tough that your opponent will have a hard time, where these things have a -1 to hit and wound them innately, or actually with upgrades. These things with their toughness 8 are going to be -1 to hit and wound, where Meltaguns are probably going to be going into these things. These things are going to be able to, the Soul Grinders are going to be able to walk onto objectives and park themselves there and just destroy anything that gets close to them. They are an insanely efficient unit, and I absolutely love them. I do need to get me a couple of legit Soul Grinders, but when I do, I'm probably going to get one and do this, which this was a model given to me by somebody, and then I repainted. Actually, I just painted. This is an Arachnarok Spider and half a Keeper of Secrets. So what I'm probably going to do is run this as my new Soul Grinder, buy another Arachnarok Spider, and do this same conversion twice so that I have 2 different looking Soul Grinders. Because I don't like the Defiler look. I think it looks too bio and not... It's too mechanical and not enough body horror for my take. But yeah, I absolutely love this army to death, and I think that it is a very fun army to play. I am very happy with it and how it performs. It did feature in a recent battle report and get tabled, but I still wound up winning because of points, and it was such a good game. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What would you change in this list? What would you add? Like, let's remove Tiamat for a second and keep this as a Soul Grinder, and then we have this as a Soul Grinder. I actually love this list. I think it's great. I think it's very unique. Oh, and before you ask, if you want to know, I did resculpt this just a little bit and repaint this model so that it has more of a tan look and is actually wearing a bra. I had to actually sand down her nipples. This is from Creature Caster, and this sword I made myself. This is based off of a Dark Heresy character. The Celeste that I'm using is also from Creature Caster, and the rest is actually just GW models. 1 Diaz. 1 Diaz. That's what these are. These are 1 Diaz Demonettes, or Seekers in this case. This model is a Kit Bash. This is a Demon Prince, Keeper of Secrets, and a thing from AOS that I can't remember the name of. That is what it's called. So yeah, tell me what you guys think in the comments down below, and if you want to see more army lists, let me know.